I'll take a break from the controversial videos for a minute and talk about the new update coming to the game. This video will probably come out like a day or two after the update actually launches, so I'll be a little bit late to the party, but hopefully it'll be good information. Anyway, let's get into it. All right, the first change that I think is going to be really, really nice is that now you're going to be able to see your commanders running around the map when they are fighting and leading armies. To me, this is going to really improve the immersion aspect of the game. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings dork, and I can't wait to see my King of Men, Theoden, and other commanders literally leading their armies into battle. I think it's just going to be super, super cool. Not a huge change by any means, doesn't actually affect the gameplay at all. I just think it's going to look super cool. And I do want to point out that you will only see this for your own commanders and friendly commanders. So you will not be able to tell which enemies are marching at you by looking at their commander. There's just going to be a generic commander model marching around. You won't know who it is until they land or until you use, like, poke them with a one command army, a scout army, or use the clairvoyance ring skill, at which point, just like normal, you'll be able to tell who they are from the battle report itself. The second change I want to talk about will have some gameplay implications, and that is that the Paths of the Dead and potentially other areas, because this does say lands that are haunted by a grudge, every single tile is going to look like an enemy tile. There can actually be friendly fire in these areas now, and I believe that there will be some type of bot/NPC armies that will come and fight you in these areas. So you probably don't want to leave your commanders down there unattended overnight, or if you're going to be away from the game for some time. I think this is going to be relatively interesting because, once again, it's another change that sort of plays into the lore of Lord of the Rings. And like I said, with the commanders leading your armies into battle change, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings lore fan. And so I think, just like with that change, it's going to increase the immersion, but also this will have some impacts on the gameplay itself, as you'll have to be much more careful when you're pathing and running around down here to pick up your Oathbreaker camp or farm or whatever else, because I bet you, I can guarantee it's going to happen. There's going to be some friendly fire going on. It's going to cause some drama, and hopefully people can laugh it off and say, oh, my bad, dude, I'm sorry for that. But hey, you never know. People, they get really, really protective of their tiles. And moving on, Beornings are getting changed with the release of the new good side commander, Beorn. There's also a new evil side commander coming as well, but I don't think any of the evil units are being changed. The big change in this case is that Beornings will now be classified as men units and beast units. I don't think this is going to magically make them S tier units unless Beorn himself has some massive buffs to these guys. However, their itemization does improve significantly due to this change. There is little to no real itemization for beasts, while there is quite solid itemization for men units. So you'll really be able to stack up some extra defense on these guys, some damage reductions, things like that. It's not going to make them magically amazing. However, I do think it will make them much more useful, especially on somebody like Radagast. They might become quite viable on him. Maybe even Haldir, although he really leans more into ranged units and elves anyway. But it is nice to see that they are trying to make a unit that is relatively underutilized, in my opinion, a little bit stronger. And finally, we have what I hope will be the first in a series of Bag End reworks. I think this is kind of nice because it means that at least on some level, the devs seem to be listening to people when they say that Bag End is an absolutely miserable experience, somewhat relatable to, I guess, Purgatory, you would say. Hopefully it's not blasphemous to say something like that. However, now in Bag End, you will be able to do some type of events that are tied to the game map. You'll be able to move your little house around, your hobbit shack, whatever this is called. I guess your cottage. They're referring to it as a cottage. You'll be able to move around the map, participate in events, and who knows what else. I'm hoping that eventually this leads to things like being able to hit tiles, to test different army compositions and things like that. They did say that right now there will be no combat. However, I think that would be really nice because then you could practice your early game, like your first 24 hours scenario. You could test which commanders do the best. You could, hit some 200 power tiles, hit statues, or whatever else you would want to do along those lines. I would really love to see combat eventually as part of this, just so that we can test some things out while we're in bag end, troop compositions, equipment, skill builds, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully, eventually, maybe fingers crossed. Let me get my fingers crossed in the camera. We will get some type of actual PvP arena or some mode. I think it'd be really cool if you could invite another player into your little instance here. You each have your cottage. You get to pick 3 or 5 commanders, whatever it may be, load up with troops and go and fight them just like you would be fighting them out in the real world. And I believe in order to access this new form of backend content, you will click down here in the bottom left-hand corner to enter the exploration mode. Obviously, you can still sign up for campaigns, open chests, and all the other stuff that you can already do in bag end. But I really, really hope that this is the beginning of some actual content, something to actually do while you're sitting in bag end. And like I mentioned before, there are 2 new commanders coming as well with this update. I'll probably make a video about my initial impressions on them once we can see their skill trees and all of that good stuff. So this video, pretty short and sweet. Figured I would just talk about the update a little bit. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.